Have you ever noticed that even with your phone always in hand, you feel more anxious and dissatisfied? It may seem counterintuitive, but your phone could be contributing to your unhappiness. Instead of bringing joy and connection, it is overwhelming your brain, leaving you more vulnerable to anxiety and constant comparison. Today, I'm going to show you how this happens, and more importantly, how you can start changing it now. The first thing that stands out today is how cell phones have taken over our lives. Just look around and there they are, in practically everyone's hands. More than 91% of the population accesses the internet directly from their cell phone, which isn't surprising since we carry these small devices everywhere we go. It's as if the world is literally at our fingertips. Adults spend, on average, about 11 hours a day consuming media. It sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, there's more involved than just scrolling through feeds. Notifications, emails, videos, it's an endless cycle. Now, think about the impact of this. It's not just about entertainment. The whole society has been shaped around these devices. Conversations, business, even learning, everything happens through them. Before, it was common to stop and read a newspaper or watch the news from the couch. Now, a quick glance at the phone, and boom, we're updated. That seems practical, right? And it is. But what many people don't realize is how much this has changed the way we think and live. Excessive use is no longer an exception, it has become the rule. And there's another detail. Convenience comes with a price. Before you know it, you've spent hours on your phone without even realizing it. It goes like this. You unlock your phone just to check something, and before you know it, 2 hours have passed. It seems harmless, but then a pattern begins. Our ability to stop, reflect, and really focus on something important decreases with each tap on the phone. And you know that feeling that we're always behind. That pressure to constantly be up to date comes along with this rampant consumption. For some, all this might even sound familiar. How many times have you caught yourself trying to watch a movie or even work, and without realizing it, you unlocked your phone? It's like it's calling you. That feeling of being connected is good, but it's also deceptive. It's not just a distraction. It goes much deeper. Phone use messes with our internal systems, especially dopamine, that substance in the brain that gives us the feeling of pleasure and reward. The problem is that the more we seek this sensation, the more dependent we become on this little machine. And that's where things get complicated. Cell phone dependency has already become a real problem. People who can hardly go a few hours without checking their phones feel an absurd need to be plugged in. Interestingly, this has already been studied, and the results are alarming. The average time spent on media combined with constant phone use has direct consequences on our mood, emotions, and even the way we view life. It's as if we're constantly chasing something without knowing exactly what. During today's video, besides the main topics, I'd like to share something that has made a difference for me. Recently, I started using Cineboost, which has been helping me improve focus, energy, and even reduce anxiety in my daily life. If you're interested in learning more, take a look at the pinned comment. And the best part is, you only pay for shipping. The real magic, or trap, behind cell phones lies in dopamine. You know that good feeling you get when you receive a notification or see a like on a photo? That's no accident. Every time something like this happens, your brain releases dopamine, the famous reward neurotransmitter. The thing is, cell phones are designed to exploit exactly that brain response, and the cycle is addictive. The more dopamine the brain gets, the more it wants. The result? We're always checking our phones for more notifications, for more interactions, as if our satisfaction depended on it. It works in a very simple but incredibly powerful way. Imagine this. You hear a ding coming from your phone. Even without knowing what it is, your brain is already conditioned to expect something good, a message, a like, or even a new product offer. Then you unlock the phone and more dopamine. It's like an infinite cycle that keeps you connected, seeking more. This process is so automatic that we often don't even realize we're in it. It's no longer about liking what's happening, but needing that interaction to feel good. the issue with dopamine and cell phones goes beyond the search for reward. As we are constantly exposed to these small hits of dopamine, our brain begins to demand more and more stimulation to feel the same satisfaction. Over time, what used to be enjoyable, like a message from a friend, starts to lose its appeal. We need more notifications, more likes, more funny videos to feel good. And when this cycle isn't completed, it's common to feel empty, like something is missing. The impact of this in real life is noticeable. People are becoming less capable of focusing on long, demanding activities. Remember when reading a book or watching a 2-hour movie was something normal? Well, today it seems almost impossible to do that without checking your phone several times. The need for quick dopamine is training us to want immediate rewards, which affects everything, from work to personal relationships. For many, a simple moment of boredom is enough to grab their phone and seek more stimulation. And of course, the reward cycle doesn't end with notifications. Content consumption also plays a crucial role. The variety of videos, memes, short articles, and everything that flows through social media feeds is always at our disposal, ready to give us a dose of dopamine at any moment. The problem is, this leaves us even hungrier for stimuli. And the consequence? Dissatisfaction with the simpler things in life. If a good chat with a friend used to be enough to make us happy, now, without a screen and a constant flow of content, it feels like something is missing. This constant search for the next reward can be subtle but isn't harmless. Many people already report clear symptoms of dependence: anxiety when they're away from their phone, a sense of discomfort without notifications, and even mood swings based on what appears or doesn't on the screen. It makes us think, how can we balance healthy technology use with our biological need for dopamine? It seems complicated, but with some adjustments in our daily lives, we can reduce this dependency. The next step will be to understand what this is doing to our brain in terms of focus and productivity. What's happening in our brain behind this constant phone use is deeper than we realize. The dopamine rewards created by constant notifications and interactions start to shape the way the brain works. The most evident result? Our ability to focus is being sabotaged. That intense concentration that once allowed you to read a whole book or complete a complex task is becoming rarer and rarer. That's because the brain gets used to jumping from one distraction to another, always seeking the next dose of immediate satisfaction. This phenomenon is easy to notice. Remember the last time you tried to study or focus on something for an extended period without picking up your phone? It probably wasn't easy. It's as if the brain is conditioned to expect an interruption. And when that interruption doesn't happen, it creates a desire to look for some distraction. This isn't just a productivity problem, it's a neurological transformation. The brain adapts to the environment it lives in, and today's environment is full of quick and superficial rewards. And the issue doesn't stop there. Over time, this difficulty focusing affects other areas of life. We can no longer engage deeply in conversations, for example, or even in activities that once brought us joy. This inability to dive headfirst into an activity leads to growing dissatisfaction. Without realizing it, we begin to feel bored more easily and to search for something to fill that void. The irony? The more we chase these small satisfactions, the further we feel from true fulfillment. A practical example. Imagine you're trying to learn something new, like playing an instrument or practicing a new sport. These are activities that require time, patience, and focus. But what happens when your brain is used to the quick rewards of the phone? It rebels. It becomes difficult to stay motivated, and what could have been a rewarding experience turns frustrating. This is why many give up on long-term projects. The brain gets used to the easy and fast and rejects the slow and deep. Another subtle but powerful impact is how this search for distraction affects our emotional well-being. The more the brain adapts to instant rewards, the more it rejects experiences that take time to build. This creates a disconnection from the present and chronic dissatisfaction with life. That old saying, live in the moment, becomes almost impossible when your brain is programmed to always want the next big thing. It's like trying to find happiness in a place where it will never be. The good news is that our brain can also readapt. But this requires effort and, of course, a change in habits. For those who are feeling this difficulty in focusing, practicing mindfulness techniques or meditation can be a great starting point. This way, the brain slowly starts learning to stay more present and less dependent on external rewards. This is the first step to regaining that focus that, deep down, we all miss. And of course, this paves the way to dealing with the emotional effects that are coming. The constant use of cell phones doesn't just mess with our focus, but also with our emotions. The more time we spend in front of the screen, the more vulnerable we become to a range of emotional impacts. One of the main effects is the increase in levels of anxiety and depression. This might sound extreme, but think for a moment. The phone puts the whole world at our fingertips, yet at the same time makes us feel constantly behind and out of sync with others. Every notification or post we see can trigger feelings of comparison and inadequacy. Anxiety also stems from the incessant need to stay connected. FOMO, fear of missing out, is real and affects many people. This creates pressure to always be plugged in to social media, responding to messages and seeing what's happening. And here's the problem. This constant search for new information creates a sense of urgency that wears down emotional health. People begin to feel like they are always behind, always chasing something. In the end, this anxiety only grows. Besides anxiety, constant phone use also affects our ability to deal with daily frustrations. When we are used to getting quick rewards, whether it's a like, a message, or a new video, our brain starts to expect that everything in life should be like that. But of course, life isn't. Real life requires patience, the ability to wait, and the understanding that not everything happens at the pace we want. The inability to delay gratification becomes a problem, especially in situations that require resilience and patience. This is evident in many aspects of life. For example, when working on a long project, like writing a report, studying for an exam, or even building a relationship, this need for instant gratification begins to get in the way. The phone is right there, just a click away, offering a quick and satisfying distraction. This makes it harder to stay focused on things that really matter, but take time to develop. Frustration builds up, and people start feeling like they have no control over their own lives. This cycle of dependency and quick gratification creates a harmful emotional loop. The more we use our phones to avoid discomfort or boredom, the more vulnerable we become to anxiety and eventually depression. The inability to cope with moments of silence or to be alone with our thoughts creates an environment where emotional stress is heightened. It's no surprise that many studies have shown a correlation between excessive social media use and an increase in cases of depression, especially among young people. But there is a way out of this cycle. Small steps like setting usage limits, avoiding the phone in the first few minutes of the day, or engaging in activities that don't involve screens are practical ways to reduce this emotional impact. By regaining control over when and how we use the phone, we can start to restore emotional balance. However, when this isn't done, other signs begin to emerge, symptoms of a true emotional dependence on the phone, which we'll explore next. Recognizing the signs of possible cell phone addiction is the first step to understanding the impact this is having on people's lives. One of the most common symptoms is the uncontrollable urge to check the phone constantly. People experience an almost physical desire to pick up the device, even when there's no clear reason to do so. It's as if the simple act of unlocking the screen offers some kind of relief. This sensation of craving is one of the main indicators that something is off. It's no longer about using the phone out of necessity, but out of compulsion. Another clear sign of addiction is mood swings based on notifications. When a notification appears, there's a momentary euphoria, an expectation that something good is about to happen. However, when that notification isn't what was expected, or worse, when there are no notifications, mood can shift drastically. What was supposed to be a tool for communication becomes an emotional trigger. This affects daily routines, with a person's mood oscillating depending on what appears, or doesn't, on the screen. The inability to reduce phone use is another clear symptom. Many people recognize that they are spending too much time on their phones and yet can't cut down that time. Even when they try, they end up returning to old habits within hours or even minutes. This is typical of addictive behaviors. Even with awareness of the problem, the person feels powerless to change. It's as if the phone has an invisible force, always calling, always there, ready to be used again. These symptoms become more intense when people try to go for longer periods without their phones. Have you noticed that in situations like a trip or a social gathering, it's often difficult not to pick up the phone? Even when the situation calls for full attention, like an important conversation or a leisure moment, the phone seems to always be in the back of the mind, like a need. This directly affects the quality of life, pulling focus away from the present and from what really matters. Another clear example is the difficulty in sleeping due to excessive phone use. Many people spend hours scrolling through feeds before bed, and this affects sleep in several ways. The stimulation from the screen, combined with the excitement caused by notifications, prevents proper relaxation. The result? Poorly slept nights, fatigue the next day, and a feeling that the phone is present even in the most intimate moments of rest. And the longer this goes on, the harder it is to break the cycle. The most alarming thing is that these symptoms can intensify over time, creating a real emotional and physical dependency. People start to isolate themselves, preferring digital interactions over face-to-face meetings. Personal relationships can suffer, and productivity plummets. But like with any addiction, the first step toward change is recognizing that the problem exists. And the good news is that there are practical solutions to start dealing with it. Next, we'll explore some of these strategies that can make a difference in the lives of those seeking better balance with cell phone use. When it comes to controlling excessive phone use, the solutions may seem simple, but believe me, they require discipline and strategy. One of the first steps is to set specific times to use your phone. This can be done practically by establishing periods throughout the day to check messages or access social media. By doing this, you break the constant cycle of interruptions and regain control over your time. For example, instead of unlocking the phone at every notification, how about reserving 15 minutes every 2 hours for that? This small change can significantly reduce anxiety and stress associated with constant use. Another effective technique is logging out of the apps that consume most of your time. It may seem like a small detail, but having to log in every time you want to access your social media or emails already creates a barrier. This forces you to think twice before opening these apps automatically. Additionally, deleting social media apps from your phone and accessing them only through your computer can be a practical way to limit use. This works especially well for those who want to reduce time spent on social networks but find it difficult to resist notifications. Practicing what we call physical and categorical binding is another effective way to reduce phone usage. This essentially means creating physical and mental barriers to avoid unnecessary use. A practical example of this would be leaving your phone in another room while you work or study, or even disabling notifications completely during these periods. Another idea is to categorize your phone usage. For example, only using social media at specific times or in certain contexts, like at home or during your commute. This way, you start retraining your brain to see the phone as a tool, not as an extension of your body. In addition, many people have found benefits in adopting practices like meditation and mindfulness to help control the impulse to constantly reach for the phone. These techniques teach you to be more present and to deal better with the anxiety that comes from the lack of constant stimulation. A simple mindfulness exercise is to focus on your breathing for a few minutes every time you feel the urge to grab your phone without a real reason. This kind of practice helps create a pause between impulse and action, giving your brain time to regain control. Another strategy that can make a difference is turning phone use into something more conscious. How about starting to monitor the time you spend on each app? There are several tools and apps that help control phone usage and even send weekly reports on the time spent on each activity. This can be a real wake-up call for many who don't even realize how much time they waste daily on activities that don't bring real benefits. With this monitoring, it becomes easier to create goals and gradually reduce use. Finally, if you really want to break the cycle of phone dependency, it's important to create new habits that replace the time spent on the device. Instead of spending hours scrolling through a feed, how about investing that time in a new hobby, like reading, playing sports, or even learning a new skill? This way, you not only reduce phone usage but also enrich your life with activities that bring a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. After all, the goal is to regain control of your time and make the phone a tool that works for you, not against you. Before you leave, check out the recommended video on the screen. It will help you understand even more about the impact of phones on your life. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning. Also, I started using Cineboost, which has been helping me improve focus and reduce anxiety. If you want to know more, check out the pinned comment. And the best part, you only pay for shipping.